Welcome to Electrified. It's your host, Dylan Loomis. The boys from ARK Invest made it down to Austin to give the Robotaxi service a try. Overall, they had a great experience, but this happened, which is why safety monitors are still in the vehicle.
It pulled into the turning lane here, and just like we were saying, it doesn't get skittish anymore.
Yeah.
It got a little skittish, and then we put the flashers on and waited for support. I think the support tried to turn it back to the car to let the car finish it. The safety driver asked support to do that, and then support had the safety driver take over. So the safety driver got out and went into the driver's seat and drove me into the parking.
Really?
So that was interesting and unexpected.
Okay.
I've watched this clip like 10 times to try to determine if this was a safety monitor intervening and again, potentially making the situation worse than it would have been had there been no safety monitor. But here it is in slow motion. I'll let you decide. So unless something was edited out of this clip, it looked like the Robotaxi stopped on its own and put the vehicle in park before the safety monitor actually touched the screen. And I know it's tough to see, but if you zoom way in, it looks like in the visualization, the car was seeing something in the oncoming lane that wasn't really there. Either way though, stuff like this clearly still happening and at a very high traffic area outside of Terry Black's where Robotaxi has been many times, so not something you like to see ideally.
I had a hard time navigating.
Yes, I got stuck in an infinite loop.
Yes, but
We made it.
So that was at least two not so great situations in maybe 5 to 10 rides. They didn't say how many total they took, but it was likely just a handful. Another Robotaxi app update went out. It says your ride now arrives locked and will automatically unlock as you walk up. Just make sure your app has Bluetooth access enabled. So a nice little safety feature. And you can imagine a busy parking lot where maybe 5 Robotaxis are picking passengers up, and maybe you walk up to one. If it doesn't unlock, that's a good sign that's not your vehicle. For Tesla's ride hail in the Bay Area, more invites are going out. I've seen a handful of new people getting these invites to access in the Bay Area. Now, when it comes to Tesla's Robotaxi service in Austin, let's just say a little birdie told me some very exciting news that should become public over the weekend. I want to be respectful of Tesla and the person I heard this from, but just know there's a good chance that on Monday we'll have some great news to talk about. And you already know that time is going to fly by. So just hang in there and hopefully the next 48 hours go as planned and this news will then be shareable far and wide. For supervised FSD, just have a look at these clips that Aaron shared. I mean, this first clip was pretty incredible. FSD calmly slowed down, got off to the right to give that truck space. I thought that was very impressive. Tesla has increased the price of only the most expensive variant of the Cybertruck, the Cyberbeast, by $15,000. But now included is that Lux package that we just recently saw included on the Model S and X. Free lifetime premium connectivity, free lifetime supercharging, that 4-year premium service, and FSD all included. The entry-level long range still starts at $69,900 and the all-wheel drive is $79,900. And now the Cyberbeast is $114,900. Those higher-end buyers looking into buying the Cyberbeast anyway are certainly not as sensitive to price changes like this, and this move does build in more profit for Tesla, and it gets FSD into those buyers' hands along with all of the other features that we talked about with the Model S and X. The Cyberbeast is a very low volume variant, so this move helps with profitability because again, these extra features for the customer do not add any cost of goods sold increases for Tesla. So I know many are complaining the pricing of the Cybertruck needs to go down, not up, but remember, the other two trims are unchanged, and the Cyberbeast trim likely makes up less than 10% of Cybertruck sales, so this really is not a needle mover. NHTSA did come out with an updated crash rating for the Cybertruck, but as Wes said, the Cybertruck already had 5-star overall crash rating, but we kept working on it to make sure we got 5-star for both driver and passenger independent scores too. Wes also said it was already the safest truck ever made, and it's even more so now. And earlier this month, Tesla said, just letting you know, the Cybertruck has the lowest probability of injury and the lowest rollover risk of any pickup tested by NHTSA. So to all of the skeptics that said the Cybertruck would never be on the roads because it was a safety hazard, well, we can add them to the list of people with egg on their face. And now with the latest Tesla app update, the B-pillar cameras are now viewable from the mobile dashcam viewer for Cybertruck owners. A word of caution, I saw many comments of this feature not working well for users and many more that said the Tesla app update unpairs your phone as a key, so be sure to keep your key card with you before you update. But I've also heard Tesla is sending out a new update that fixes that problem, so just be patient, this should all be worked out by early next week. NHTSA has opened a new probe into Tesla about not reporting autopilot crashes on time. And we know the headlines we read can have a big impact on how we understand the news. And listen, it doesn't always have to be blatant. For this one, the left-leaning outlets were emphasizing Tesla's pattern of deception and opacity, depicting the company as slow, dragging its feet, and weaseling to evade government scrutiny. Right-leaning sources also stressed Tesla's reporting failures, but they framed the federal probe as a possible adversarial probe or serious inquiry, injecting skepticism about regulatory overreach. Now, in this case, it's not narrative altering like it is many other times, but within seconds, I already have my antennas up for any spin on the actual facts. Which is exactly why I like to see the news from as many angles as I can, which I do with the help of Ground News, the sponsor of this video. It's a website and an app developed by a former NASA engineer on a mission to give readers an easy, data-driven, objective way to read the news. Right now, they're offering Electrified viewers 40% off their unlimited access Vantage plan, so you can scan the QR code or use my link in the description below. Every story comes with a quick visual breakdown of any political bias. So for Powell's speech today, more than twice as many sources covered it that lean left than lean right. Every article on the topic is aggregated into one place, so typically I'll stick to reading very high factuality sources only. And for every news story, I can instantly see who actually owns all of these sources reporting. And this is all backed by 3 independent news monitoring organizations. So completely gone are the days where you have to read from a source you're not familiar with, where you have no clue who owns it or what agenda they might have. Plus, with the Vantage plan, you'll have access to both the blind spot tool, which shows stories being underreported by either side, and you'll also have your own news consumption dashboard, which I check mine weekly just to make sure I'm not stuck in any sort of echo chamber. And guys, I do want to say, I hope you know checking out these sponsors really is one of the best ways to support the channel, so I cannot thank you all enough. Again, it's ground.news/electrified linked below, or you can use the QR code on the screen for that 40% off the Vantage plan. Enjoy. And to tie a bow on that NHTSA probe, it's because they're saying Tesla has been several months late in reporting some crashes that involve autopilot, when the deadline is 5 days after the accident. But Tesla has already told NHTSA the delays were due to an issue with Tesla's data collection, which Tesla says has now been fixed. Now, for the end of this Tesla era, I mentioned this in passing a few weeks ago after Lars made a comment about the Roadster being Tesla's swan song for driving cars. But looking at the overall drumbeat the past few weeks, Elon's comments on the Model Y L in America, Tesla's move with the Lux package on the Cyberbeast S and X that sure we might see on the 3 and Y sometime later this year, which would be to move those models up market to make room for the more affordable vehicles. I just think all of this officially does mean it's time for everybody to prepare for this. Sooner than some of us may have thought, Tesla is looking to end production of vehicles with wheels and pedals. I said this to Farzad the other day, I hate this as a consumer, but as an investor in Tesla stock, I do know that in the long run, it is what's best for the profitability of the company. But it's still hard because frankly, I'm very confident Tesla can still become a multi-trillion-dollar company while still selling traditional cars for the next 5+ years, while the masses get comfortable with autonomy and it proliferates across the country. But with each passing month, it seems more and more like that is not Elon's plan. And for any of you like me that still love driving every now and then, our days of looking forward to new Tesla vehicles to drive that we can buy is likely near the end. Sure, we'll get these more affordable variants and the Roadster, but after that, Tesla may be done. Every new line or model in the future is likely to be autonomy focused, and so we'll probably get refreshes and updates of the current models from time to time. But it was this week with the Model Y L USA news where it really hit home for me. So I just want to be the voice encouraging everyone to start wrapping your heads around this reality if you haven't already. I know some of you are well ahead of me, but I'm sure there are some others of you that dislike this reality even more than me. But I'll just say the math does speak for itself. A Tesla vehicle as a robotaxi will make way more money and profit for Tesla over the life of the vehicle than in the hands of a consumer. And look, it's not like we won't be able to buy these Tesla vehicles like the Cybercab without wheels and pedals, because I do believe we will be able to in time. But yes, the days of looking forward to a new Tesla model that we can drive is likely over with the Roadster. But you know what they say, when one door closes, another opens, so this may be the end of an era, but it is the beginning of a potentially more exciting era as well. So on to bigger and more profitable ventures. And seriously, I think I need to buy a storage unit or 3, and then eventually buy 2 or 3 pristine Tesla vehicles with wheels and pedals, just to keep mostly in storage, but to go drive whenever I feel like it well into the future when I'm feeling nostalgic. Am I crazy? I don't know, perhaps, but I'm guessing at least one of you understands this. Joe Tetmeyer gave us an update on Tesla's Lithium Refinery and actually shared some pretty exciting news. The plant is now finally operational and it's actually producing lithium hydroxide from raw spodumene, and there were big deliveries of the raw material happening at the time of Joe's flight. The last reports we got did say Tesla was supposed to be using that innovative acid-free process, which would make it the first large-scale deployment once it gets to that point, using that method and the biggest battery-grade lithium refinery in North America. You may remember the quote Elon said back in April 2022, how this was going to be a license to print money, thanks to very high lithium prices and supply constraints. However, as you can see from this chart, the price of lithium has come down significantly since the time when Elon made those comments. So definitely not as much of a money printer as it would have been back then, but to reduce the reliance on China and to continually localize the supply chain is still a great thing. Joe also said he saw visible vapors exiting machinery in the hydrometallurgical section of the plant, which is the first time he's seen that, and it likely indicates an operational status. So I think we can be confident saying Tesla's lithium refinery is now finally up and running. You may remember back in July this year, Tesla removed the ability to order new Model S and X vehicles across Europe. Well, those vehicles may be set to make a re-entry back into the European market, as this type approval has been shared. As you can see though right now, it's only for the refreshed Model S. And as DTC said, regulatory filings do not guarantee a relaunch, but the fact that Model S filings are being actively updated for 2026 suggests Tesla is keeping the door open for a launch of the refreshed versions. If you're wondering what the absurd was all about on today's thumbnail, here you have it. Tesla shareholders demand investigation into Elon's latest $29 billion pay package, calling it pretty unheard of. It gets a lot better though. An investment group group has formally requested NASDAQ investigate the pay package, arguing the move should have required a shareholder vote. The SOC Investment Group is the culprit here, and they said this is the sort of outcome of having a board that is not independent. We write to request that NASDAQ promptly investigate and take appropriate remedial action on Tesla. Naturally, I did a little digging on the SOC Investment Group, and turns out they're an ESG investment activism organization. What do? Well, they focus on holding corporations and their leadership accountable for irresponsible and unethical behavior. And wouldn't you know it, the SOC Investment Group is funded primarily through its work with pension funds sponsored by unions affiliated with the Strategic Organizing Center. These funds are described as workers' capital derived from the deferred wages of more than 2 million union members. So what do you know? A union-funded organization coming after Elon and Tesla. And you guessed it, the SOC Investment Group has consistently opposed Elon's compensation packages. They've been activists urging shareholders to vote against Elon's pay plans. They cited excessive pay, board oversight failures, and Elon's distractions from other ventures like XAI and SpaceX. And do you remember the group that was demanding Elon commit to a 40-hour work week at Tesla? Yeah, it was the SOC Investment Group that was behind that. So yeah, I could go on and on about that, but I think you all get the picture. Now, the crux of their argument, should there have been another shareholder vote? Look, I'm not a lawyer, but I can read, and the NASDAQ listing rule 5635C does not mandate additional shareholder approval for individual grants made under an existing plan that has already been approved by shareholders, as long as the grant does not constitute a material amendment to the plan itself. And as we covered, this new $29 billion bridge compensation plan was granted under Tesla's 2019 equity incentive plan, which, yes, had previously been approved by shareholders, which is exactly what allowed the board to approve the plan without a new shareholder vote. And guess what? Even if the shareholders were to vote again, do we really think this one would be denied after the other two votes for the whole pay package were both approved? I think not. So yeah, I don't think we need to waste any more time here, but I think this is absurd. And part of why I think that is what Kimball Musk just said on CNBC. He said Elon deserves to be paid. He has zero pay for the past 6 to 8 years. I don't think that's right. I'll let the Tesla shareholders make that decision, but I believe that it does need to be. He needs to be paid. Mayor Adams in New York and the Department of Transportation have announced the first approval to test autonomous vehicles in New York City for Waymo. However, when you actually read through the air quotes fine print, you'll realize this is really more of a baby step than any huge breakthrough. The DOT has granted Waymo its first ever permit to begin testing a limited number of AVs in parts of Manhattan and downtown Brooklyn, under the nation's strictest AV safety rules, including a requirement to have a trained AV specialist behind the wheel at all times. So yeah, it's the first ever permit to be issued in the city to drive autonomously, but there are a lot of asterisks here. With this permit, Waymo is required to coordinate closely with DOT through regular meetings and data reporting, and Waymo must certify they're adhering to the industry's best practices related to cybersecurity. In addition to receiving DOT approval, Waymo has also obtained necessary permits from the New York State Department of Motor Vehicles. Waymo will be allowed to test up to 8 autonomous vehicles in Manhattan and downtown Brooklyn until late September 2025. After this pilot testing period, Waymo will have the opportunity to apply for an extension to their pilot testing period. And finally, the DOT's approval strictly relates to testing AV tech. The use of autonomous vehicles for hire service, aka paid passenger services, is currently prohibited by New York City Taxi and Limousine Commission rules, and any company providing for hire service must comply with TLC rules, including obtaining a TLC license. Now, the tendency is to think this helps pave the way for Tesla, and to a small degree, sure. But New York has the toughest AV rules in the country, so just because Waymo's approved does not mean Tesla's going to have a cakewalk. Tesla will still need to do everything that Waymo did, and possibly even more given its camera-only approach. And even if Tesla were to get this same approval, they would not be able to launch a paid robotaxi service in New York City without still lobbying for rule changes from the TLC. And that process alone could take months, if not years. What I'm trying to say here, the gap from getting this permit that Waymo has to actually launching a paid ride-hail service is a big gap. The safety operator in all of these Waymos will have to keep at least one hand on the wheel at all times. And Waymo applied for this permit back in June and has spent the last few months meeting with lawmakers and local organizations like Mothers Against Drunk Driving. To apply for this, Waymo had to coordinate with first responders, submit a testing plan to the local DOT, along with a safety plan that documented the qualifications of the vehicle operators, among other things. And a big question I have, if this testing is extended for Waymo beyond September and through the winter in New York, well, now we have elements and snow potentially in the equation. So is Waymo ready to handle that? Well, in the next 6 months, we should find out. Now, sure, it's a step in the right direction, but by no means is Waymo, and definitely not Tesla, somehow now completely in the clear and off to the races with robotaxi services. That is not at all the case. And Nick shared this video today saying a Waymo collided with a sanitation truck this morning in Culver City. And there have been a few other videos like this over the past few weeks, as I've been saying. So if something like this or something worse were to happen in New York, how are the regulators going to handle it? And again, right now, I was not able to find anything that shows who was actually at fault in this scenario, but something to be aware of. The end of the $7,500 EV tax credit has been amended slightly. Previously, buyers had to actually take delivery by September 30th this year to get the credit. But now, thanks to an update, all you have to do is sign a binding contract and make any payment, which can be even a nominal amount like a down payment, by September 30th to secure the credit, which will ease some of the pressure on supply chains right now and allow for delayed deliveries without losing the incentive. If for whatever reason your delivery would be pushed into 2026, which does seem crazy, that could cause problems. But for any reasonable delays into October, you can still claim the credit as long as these new requirements are met. And those new requirements boil down to the simplest form: enter into a binding contract and make some form of payment, even small, before September 30th. According to some recent filings, Tesla's infotainment systems in China are now using two different LLMs. Dubao for standard voice commands like navigation, music playback, and climate control, and now they also have DeepSeek Chat, a conversational AI model for more advanced interactive dialogue. Certain regulations in China around data localization laws prevent Tesla from routing voice or AI interaction data to overseas servers, which effectively blocks the use of Grok. But of course, this doesn't have any impact for those of us outside of China. Helm.ai, a California company, and Honda have agreed to a multi-year deal for autonomous vehicle development. They're working on Honda's next-gen self-driving capabilities, including its Navigate on autopilot. Honestly, Helm.ai in its materials has a lot of buzzwords that Tesla has used. Large-scale auto-labeling, generative simulation, foundation models, end-to-end AI architecture for everything from perception to decision making and vehicle actuation. There's not a lot out there on Helm AI, but they do have two different approaches, one for level 2 and 3 ADAS, and then a separate plan for level 4. And yes, the level 4 plan does include LiDAR, but for level 2 and 3, they're going with vision only. As of today, I was able to find no reports of Helm's technology being in any vehicles on public roads. They're still in the testing phase, but the biggest non-starter for me was right here. They said mass production isn't targeted until after 2027, which means 2028 at the earliest. And look, by 2028, if they're just getting started with some level 2, 3, maybe 4 in a small use case, well, by then Tesla might have all of the United States covered, so they're probably just going to opt out of this and license FSD at some point. But for now, until Tesla actually proves it and slams that door shut and everybody else realizes how much work it takes to get a working system, these other companies will do everything in their power to drag their feet and not work with Tesla to give them any more money or or any greater lead. But it's ironic because in the end, I think that's only going to hurt them more. Tesla Chan shared this video, which I believe was from Met God in the Wilderness, but it showed some castings that we haven't seen before at Fremont. Plenty of speculation out there, nobody knows for sure, but Luca Greco has said these might be for the rear portion of the Cybercab. So here's an enhanced image. We don't know for sure, so I'd love to hear your speculation. But something's going on, and they do look pretty small, so Cybercab would be my guess. As Sawyer said, if you share feedback with Tesla through the new portal, Tesla's now sending response emails with confirmation numbers effectively to let you know it's been received, and they'll reach out to you directly if they have additional questions. And 2 quick fun ones to send you off into your weekend. There's a new venture, Chipotle, which is a drone-based burrito delivery service launched by, Chipotle. For now, this is only for customers in the greater Dallas area, but I'm guessing if it goes well, it will expand. To start, the service can handle orders up to 5.5 pounds, going up to 8 pounds later, and the full Chipotle menu is eligible. And then just casually, Elon said Grok 5 has a non-trivial chance of achieving AGI. XAI is close to having all the pieces in place. If you don't know what AGI is, I'd encourage you to take the weekend and do a deep dive. Tesla stock closed the day at $340.01, up 6.22%, while the NDX was up 1.54%. The volume was 12% above the average. Don't forget, check out Ground News links below for those interested, and again, thank you for considering supporting the channel in that way. Hope you have a safe and wonderful weekend. Please like the video. If you did, you can find me on X linked below, and a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters.